the viewers can see that are watching us on YouTube. If you're listening, you won't have a clue what I'm talking about, but we have got a new guest on the show. He's a very close friend of mine. We've been friends. We always seem to get our longest friends on, Matt, which is seems to be the instructions.
Earn your stripes
exactly.
To get on the show. That's what it is.
We've got Steve from the SCW Wrestling Channel. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Steve, how long have we been friends?
Goodness, about 1997-ish. That's when we started school, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, it's got to be
that long.
20 something years now.
Yeah. So we are now living miles between us. Steve, you're based in Lanzarote, so you're in a lot warmer climates than me and Matt at the moment. But tell us a little bit about yourself, a bit about your channel, Steve.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I mean, you're kind of the reason really the channel began, really. We always had our chats about wrestling, didn't we, back in the day? And you said that maybe it'd be a good platform to put it on. So if anyone watches the content and doesn't like it, they now know who to blame. So that's always a good start with it. But
and that's the same for this podcast as well, just putting that out there.
The channel's been up now for a good couple of years now. I did take a break for a little while, but it's all just opinion-based stuff really on WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, that sort of stuff really. And James, you've been a guest on the show from time to time, which has always been good to have you on. And we're at 555 subscribers now on YouTube, which is really cool. Trying to just put out as much content as possible, just trying to see if we can, make the channel grow, see how well it goes. It keeps me off the streets and it keeps me out of trouble. So it's always good fun.
And just to fill in a bit there as well, I don't think you do yourself a good enough service there, Steve, because your knowledge on wrestling is far superior than certainly mine as a fan of wrestling. Matt, you're not a huge wrestling fan. I know you used to watch it back in the day.
Definitely. I think my memories of wrestling is probably when I started sort of secondary school, high school, which would have been sort of early 90s, so very, very, very early 90s. So, and I remember in the early years of secondary school, sort of being out on the playing field and pretending wrestling each other and sort of being in agony because someone would try and pole drive you and stuff on the hard ground and that sort of thing. So my knowledge is very much limited to the classic characters in wrestling of that time, like Hulk Hogan and Big Boss Man and Jake the Snake and sort of Ultimate Warrior and so on. Which links to a question that me and James were discussing for you, Steve, based on your knowledge. Who do you think from that sort of early era, I don't know whether they'd called it a golden era sort of wrestling, who do you think as a character from then would translate well now, sort of in current wrestling?
That's a really good question. I mean, the obvious one is the one that was still sort of going up until April this year, which was The Undertaker, a character that really shouldn't have worked back then. It was an awful gimmick, really. You think of it, if it was given to anyone, but the fact that it was given to him, he found ways of making that character connect with different audiences and being in that sort of, era that it was at the time, it just kind of connected, and fans have always been compelled by The Undertaker. So I suppose he would be the obvious answer. But I don't know with some of the other ones. I mean, when you look at today, we don't have as many characters, if you want. We have more based on the actual superstars from name value. And so perhaps more of a technical standpoint, I think someone like Bret the Hitman Hart was one of my early favourites. I think that if he was still able to go today, I think that he would have some classic matches with some of the roster today. I mean, they the people you have today, they're far superior on the in-ring side of things to perhaps what we had back then. They do all sorts of things you could only dream about. But from a character standpoint, you probably lack from almost today's to what you had then. Everyone seemed to have like a larger-than-life character.
I'd agree with that, actually, because I talk a lot about wrestling to Matt from time to time with things that are going on that are kind of wow moments, and I show Matt a lot of clips of moves that just like kind of make your jaw drop, and the athleticism in wrestling now is completely different. But I sometimes think that's where wrestling lacks now, because growing up it was about the characters and how you almost like you would in a movie or a TV program, you'd relate to them, or you'd have your favourites because they were a bad villain or a good hero.
I was going to say, Nate, it goes back to what we've spoken about before. It's like the hero and villain thing, isn't it? And you'd either champion the good guy or, you know, the bad guy. I remember when, so probably towards the end of when I watched wrestling was when Hawk and Animal and like Legion and Doom and that came in, and they were just so cool. They were the bad guys, but you thought, oh, look at them, they're so cool. And loved that. Absolutely love that. And the figures as well, you know, and that translated so well into the little figures that you could get. Yeah, and then having a load of those.
Yeah, definitely. I think nowadays they must all look very similar in some respects, because they are kind of
men in pants.
Men in pants, yeah, essentially.
That's it, really.
Yeah. But no, Steve, thanks for answering that question. That was one that was picking away at me last night, thinking who would I pick from back then. But